Hello and welcome to Nick's Allotment Diary.
It's a lovely warm March day today, so I thought it will be worth doing a little plot tour with you. So first of all, I'll just show you the flowers. These are the daffodils that are flowering just by my plot. We've got a communal garden that's the garden bed is just in front of my plot. There's my plot over there. Here's the garden. The flowers are starting to emerge. Here's some daffodils, and here some nice yellow crocuses. They're lovely, they're in flower now. Tulips are starting to come up, but they're not in flower yet. They're sort of going to be out probably in a few more weeks. And as you can see, it's a nice sunny morning, ideal to be down on the plot. Firstly, I'll show you the fruit bed. In front of me, these are the raspberry canes. They've all been cut back for the winter. Hopefully I should get some decent raspberries this year. Here is the apple tree. Two stems. I need to stake it properly this year because the apples were very heavy. There were quite a lot of them on the stems and it weighed them down too much. So I temporarily stuck a big green stake in, but I need to put a proper wooden stake at the base of the tree. In this green recycling bin, I've covered over a rhubarb crown. Now, I'm not sure how well this will appear on camera because it's quite dark. But if you can see down there, there are 2 or 3 nodules of rhubarb where the rhubarb's going to emerge from. So what I tend to do each year is to put a bin or a compost bin over the top of the rhubarb, and what that does is it forces the rhubarb to grow up because the light is excluded. It forces the rhubarb to grow up and it produces quite thin but very sweet stems of rhubarb, which, if you like rhubarb, it's best to get it as sweet as possible. Later on in the season it can become quite thick and quite acidic. The rhubarb that was forced last year, I'm not forcing it this year, this crown. That one's coming up and starting to produce leaves now. So it won't be long before we get some decent rhubarb, I should think. Over to the beds. This bed and the one to the right don't have anything in at the moment. They're resting and waiting to have their crops to be put in this year. Haven't finally decided what's going to go in what bed, but I will be producing a plan soon to decide what's going to grow where. In this bed we have brassicas. There are some cabbages. These, believe it or not, are sprout plants. They've not grown very tall. They were put in towards the back end of the year. Hopefully they'll produce sprouts later on this year, probably towards the autumn. And over here we have the purple sprouting broccoli. The purple sprouting broccoli is starting to produce purple spears of broccoli, which is very good, so I'll start harvesting some of them soon. In this bed we have leeks and broad beans. So here are the leeks. They're ready for harvest now, these larger leeks, so I shall take some of those home with me today. And over here we have the broad beans. Now they're looking pretty sorry for themselves at the moment, and I think that's down to the cold weather we had in the last couple of weeks. We've had snow, we've had frost, we've had hail. So I don't know whether you can see, but the stems here to me look as if they've rotted off. Having said that, there are new shoots appearing, so with a bit of luck they should actually survive. And I do actually have some spare plants in the greenhouse ready to go out. I'm going to leave them for another couple of weeks and then I'll plant those out in this bed. Over here we have another set of leeks. They're ones that were planted towards the back end of the year. They're starting to become a bit larger now, a little bit better. Over to this bed we have the garlic, looking a little bit yellow. Again, I'm not sure it liked the cold weather we had over the last few weeks, but it seems to have survived all right, so I think we should be all right with that. The rest of the bed is clear and we'll have some other crops put into it. Over to this bed now. This is the bed that's got the kale in. This kale has stood well through the winter, netted of course to keep off the pigeons. If I didn't net them, the pigeons would eat all the leaves. Don't know whether you can see the top here. They have had a go at nibbling the stuff that's grown through the netting. And similarly over here I've spotted the kalettes. Again, classic signs of pigeon damage there, where any leaves that have emerged through the netting, the pigeons have had a good chomp on. Here we have the plum tree, just starting to, the buds are starting to burst, not quite out yet. Not quite sure how that will appear on the camera, if it appears in focus, but the certainly plenty of buds, so hopefully I should get some blossom this year and maybe a few plums. Blackberry, thornless blackberry, got a bit knocked back by the frost, a few of the leaves looking a bit damaged there, but the new shoots I think will be okay because it hasn't produced any flowers as yet, so I think we'll be okay as long as we don't get any more heavy frosts. Strawberry bed looking a bit sorry for itself, needs a little bit of TLC now. I need to cut back all the old foliage from last year, all the leaves off last year's plants, but as you can see there's plenty of new green growth coming through, so hopefully the plants should all have survived. I have got plenty of runners that I potted up at the back end of last year. If any of the plants have died I should be able to replace them with new plants. Compost heap is a bit of work in progress. I've started to sieve some of the compost in the bin that you can see now and place it into this bin here. This one had well rotted manure in from last year, so all that well rotted manure has now been put on the beds, and what I'm planning to do is move all of this compost into this bin and then move this giant black composter into this position. Right, now into the fruit cage. So as you can see, the fruit bush is starting to produce buds. That's the blueberry. There's another one there in a pot. These are the black currants that I pruned back the other week. And here are the strawberries. These are the ever-bearing strawberries. And those are alpine strawberries. Here we have the gooseberry bushes. There's one there and another one there. And at the back we have red currants. So I should have quite an abundance of fruit in this fruit cage this year with a bit of luck. It certainly did well for me last year, so I'm looking forward to some nice fruit this year. Now we move on to the flower bed. First thing to note is these lovely dwarf daffodils. They're looking as if they're just about emerging now. And here are the roses. Now, I've cut those well back, as you will have seen in one of my videos. But the good thing is, particularly you can see on this one, the new growth is starting to emerge. And here is the lavender. Again, that's looking better now it's been trimmed back. Finally, for the plot tour, I'll just take you into the greenhouse. There isn't too much growing as yet. I'm just about to start off all my seeds. So we've got some lettuce. These were the surviving lettuces that didn't get eaten when I put the plants into the long bed in the greenhouse where the slugs or snails ate them. But these are looking pretty decent. They're getting to a decent size now. There's about 1, 2, the 4 lettuces there. So they can go out into the main beds in maybe a few weeks' time once the soil starts to warm up. Here we have onions. These were the original onions I planted just after Christmas, the Bedfordshire Champion onions, and these are another variety I'm growing, which are the large onions exhibition. And I have got some onions. These are giant red onions. I think they're Robinson's onions. They're just starting to emerge, but they were only planted a few weeks ago. Moving over to the broad beans. Here's my spare broad bean plants. Not many of them, but they should be able to fill in the rows outside. Any ones that need replacing, I shall use these. So there we go, that's the end of the plot tour for March. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for joining me at Nick's Allotment, and I'll see you again next time.